Blood and Briar, Chapter 3. Order. It was proper to name the town Order. With a population of just over 15,000, the community catered to the sublime perfection of order without excess population. The alleys and streets were swept and free of potholes and grit, straight and parallel, regardless of the surrounding network of dirt and gravel roads beyond the township. A gas station, convenience store, library, police station, power station, and hardware store were all refutations of the state of average farm towns. There were no crumbling curbs or cracked parking lots, no bleak, faded storefronts or wayward lawns. Rusty trucks and cars were parked off the streets. It was obviously impossible to prevent seasonal rust on anything but the newest vehicles, so any car or truck showing the slightest hint of corrosion was sequestered to the back streets or back lots. It was unfortunate that certain people living in town couldn't afford rust free vehicles, so there was no absolute mandate against rust. There were certainly discouragements and daily reminders. Even the rust that dared be shown in public was cleaned to a fresh shine, and this was strictly enforced. Such was the rigorous maintenance of order in the namesake community. The friendly old lady looking out her salon window would telephone her friend from church at the sight of a rust bucket from out of town. That friend, the manager of the bank, would watch out for this clunker and, upon seeing it at the gas station from his attic window, would call the gas station manager, who would take the license plate number down. The number was reported to the local sheriff, who would make mental note of the number and description of the vehicle. The whole community was on high alert until the clunker was miles from town. At church, everyone talked about the strange old truck that got gas, picking each other's brain for the identity of the driver. If no one knew who the driver was, the townfolk maintained their alert until it was clear the truck would not be back. Such was the rigorous maintenance of order in the namesake community. There was, of course, the Furniture Emporium, a ruin at the edge of utopia. The building was a necessary reminder of the chaos beyond the township. The few who were aware of the reputation of the property avoided it, pushing its existence from daily reality. Still, diligence being a hallmark of perfection, the grass was mowed around the broken structure and the weeds were duly pulled. The outright cleanliness of vehicles was strongly suggested rather than legally enforced. Few felt confident enough to risk rebellion against this order. The chest beating fathers cheering their sons during football games and the poorest laborers keeping the noise of their clunker from drawing unwanted attention, they respected the order nonetheless. Street signs shimmered in the sun with all the effervescence of fresh cut flowers. Windows were clean enough to see into the soul of those on the other side of the glass. Even the eldest structures were relieved of any evidence of erosion or lack of care. The Corn Crib Hotel was originally raised from its foundations shortly after 1948, the work of a war veteran and his wife prior to the birth of their first child. After 2 generations, the remaining heir of the property turned the building into office space. The building was hardly recognizable from the photographs of its original grand opening, cleaner and grander than the original. The police station was the pinnacle of order, a narrow little building with a holding cell and an office. The police station was rarely occupied, peace an obligation as well as a reputation to maintain to the utmost. Trees in the park were trimmed and neat, the branches standing out as arms in salute. There were none of the sagging rags of leaves overcome by thistles and vine as seen passing through any other town, no grounds disrupted by rabbit holes and gopher holes. While the earth beyond order was infested and corrupted by weather-worn trees and abandoned homes, barns caved in on themselves in collections of derelict machinery along barbed wire, order stood fast and strong. Just on the outskirts of order was the least amount of disorder, yet just enough disorder to be banished from being allowed into town. What became of order would become of the world if need be. Thistles, brambles, cocklebur, and burdock were ravaged from the furthest fence line. Telltale blackberry thrust through the ground along fence posts, prying into gaps in boards and winding around barbed wire, diligent to make progress. Once spotted, these vines were uprooted and burnt for good measure to prevent their return. Seed pods were gleaned from the furthest corner of the township, spring blossoms nipped before they could burst with fluff. From the farms nearby, kids and family farm trucks would romp down the surrounding dirt roads at speed, driving up long tails of dust. There were infinite numbers of unhatched seeds suspended in these clouds. The truck itself was a carrier of that rural disease, in the dirt under the dashboard, and in the mud packed into the frame between the box and cab. Whatever the risks from the surrounding gauntlet of vermin and weeds, the town of Order was resolute against disorder of any kind, from the horrors of world history to the caustic little words spoken in anger. What languid offenses that grew out of the ground or thrown up by a summer breeze. Order was a veritable American utopia, sans ecclesiastic dystopia.